E40. You can see the sign in green, E40. This runs from Ostend, which is the city on the coast, right through to Brussels, and then also goes on through Germany and right the way through Europe. It's actually the longest trans-European road in Europe.
We arrived at the Port of Zeebrugge in Belgium at 7 o'clock in the morning, and shortly thereafter, we boarded a bus headed for Brussels, the capital of Belgium. It was an hour-and-a-half ride from the port to Brussels. Along the way on the bus, we tasted our first small box of Belgian chocolate.
Now, if you look ahead there, you can see against the skyline. In just a moment, you'll see looks like a big onion top there, the Grand Dome. That is the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, or it's the. This is what we call the atomium, made entirely of steel and aluminium, and it was built as the center of attraction for the Great World's Fair in 1958. Nuclear power was the theme of the World's Fair then. It took 22 months to design and 18 months to build. So that's what it is, the atomium. So it takes its name from atom. 110 meters, about 340 feet high. By the way, on the left-hand side is a statue of Neptune, a copy of the famous one in Bologna in Italy. This is a Chinese pavilion. I say we can't stop, we will go nice and slow. Okay. That's the back end of the pavilion. Look between the trees now, and the palace is down on the left there. If the flag is flying, it means the king is in Belgium. The flag's flying, so the king's here. Okay. That is the Palace of Laken. All these buildings along here, I say, all brand new, all various ministries, some ministries, offices of the big multinationals. We have a federal system in Belgium. We have the federal government, and then we have the Flemish government and the French-speaking government. And this is where the tomb of the unknown soldier, the National War Memorial for Belgium. This is the Federal Parliament of Belgium, here on the left-hand side. You can see where these police in their red overcoats are. Here's the American Embassy coming up here, the back end of it here. The residence and the embassy is on the other side. Okay, the Royal Palace of Brussels goes back also to the early 1700s, but was completely rebuilt in 1875.
If anybody happens to get lost, ask anyone for a central station, bus will be here.
When we arrived in Brussels after the long trip from Zeebrugge, everybody was dying to get into one place. It turned out it's not free. We have to pay to get in.
Here in Belgium, public toilets are not free. They cost 25 cents or 30 cents. I don't know what it is. But not literally.
It was a walking tour around the city, where our guide took us everywhere.
He said no. You can see the name up there, Charles Bowles, B-U-L-S. He was the burgomaster, the mayor of Brussels, at the end of the century. Now, when we see the Grand Place, the Grand Market Square, you'll understand why he's like a hero. He was a very rich man, and he spent his personal fortune on keeping this city centre as it was, subsidizing the shop just so to keep the character of the Grand Place. we're now in the Galerie de la Reine. This is a good example of Art Nouveau architecture from the 1850s, 1860s. Towards the turn of the century, or in the new century, this was the place to be seen. Important people all came here. Lots of little sidewalk cafes, like one over there just coming up. But everything starts late here. But everything goes on till 11, 12 restaurants at night. Okay?
In Brussels, I couldn't help but admire some of the architectures and buildings. I can describe some of them as very unusual.
The fountain was built in honor of loyalty. A very old custom has it that your wish will be granted if you throw a coin into the bowl of the fountain with the wish to remain faithful to one another. That's the legend of it.
So let me try some.
Yeah, you can. This comes from the Butcher Street. This is Butcher Street, as I've already said. We're now going down the short Butcher Street, or the little Butcher Street. Tea.
One of our major stops on walking tour is the Grand Square. The architectures are really nice and neat and interesting.
Where you're standing now is Grand Square. It is above the river. The river is channeled underneath. And this was a great marsh.
After the brief tour in the city of Brussels, we were given a little more time for picture taking, do a little more walking, and going shopping.
Okay, time to sugar time. Chocolates, okay? This is a really good little place. I say there are a lot of chocolate houses. This is a good place. At the back there, they actually make the chocolate themselves. So it's a good little place. It's not too far from the square. What you're seeing. Stop raining. Okay. Little Julian was one of the children of the mayor, one of the high dignitaries in the city of Brussels. Well, 300 years ago, he got lost. But 300 years ago, this was like a slum. His father offered a reward to whoever found him. But also, he will build a statue of where he was found and in what position. So he imagined that he was going to be mugged, throat cut or whatever, but he didn't. He was found doing that in this corner. So that is generally the legend of how he got here. This is not the original. The original is in the Brussels Museum.
You'd come from this boulevard from the right there, entering Brussels through the archway into the city centre. As we come through it, you'll see both sides of us great arches and with columns. On the right hand side is the National War Museum, going back to Napoleon's time. And on the left hand side, the big building running all the way down there is the National Art Gallery. See, look, the horses on the top, the emblem of Belgium, the golden lion at the top there. And you've got the colonnades coming all the way around. Here, I see on the wall on the left, there's a plaque on the wall here where you have the heads of the 5 previous kings. So, the Basilica of the Kugelberg, the Sacred Heart. It's actually on the second highest point in Brussels. And it was from here, actually, that the French general, Villeroy, bombarded the old city back in 1695.
The all-day tour was great, except for momentary rain. The weather glitch, however, did not ruin the entire trip, and we were all happy to get back to the ship.
So have a good trip back to England or to London tonight, and don't forget, if you have forms to get stamped, don't forget to get them stamped in the airport when you leave England.